want to transition to the NBA for a second because this is another developing story that I think is interesting to keep an eye on. Bradley Beal and the Washington Wizards. Obviously, we are getting close to the start of free agency in the NBA. There are a lot of guys that always feel like we've been keeping tabs on for several years. And Bradley Beal has always been one of those guys that we've monitored every single offseason to see what his satisfaction level is with the situation he's in Washington, D.C. And as of right now, he is expected to decline his $36.4 million player option and re-sign with the Wizards on a 5-year Supermax deal that would pay him about $248 million, give or take, depending on what the cap situation, how much cap room NBA teams have moving forward under the new collective bargaining agreement and the new TV rights deal. But here's the interesting thing about Beal and the Wizards. I think that two things can be true. I think that Bradley Beal can be a player that's all about winning and about competing and staying competitive and playing for a competitive team. I think that can be true. And I think it can also be true that Bradley Beal wants to make generational wealth and he recognizes what's at stake. And he's got a chance to earn $250 million signing this deal. And I don't think that one necessarily detracts from the other. I don't think that if Bradley Beal were to sign the Supermax, then it justifies people saying he's not all about winning and he's not all about competing. I think that it would be a mistake to categorize Bradley Beal in this fashion if he were to sign the Supermax, because he's got a chance to earn $250 million. I don't think you or I, or perhaps 99.9% of the world's population can even quantify, compute, or comprehend what that type of money is and what that's worth. So for us to criticize and to judge him, this would be the most prudent and pragmatic decision he could make. It's an easy choice. You sign the max, you take that money. Without question. Without question. You don't even think, you don't hesitate at all. But I don't think that's the real question at play here. I don't think the question is, would it be a mistake for Bradley Beal to commit himself to an organization that hasn't necessarily proven that it can operate at a championship level, or that they've surrounded Beal with the requisite pieces for him to compete for an NBA title. I don't think that the question should be, should Bradley Beal, would it be a mistake for Bradley Beal to hitch his wagon, to an organization like the Wizards? I think the question, the real question, the bigger question, the more important one to ask is, would it be a mistake for the Wizards to offer Bradley Beal this max extension? That's really the question here, because when I look at Bradley Beal, I love Bradley Beal. I appreciate and admire his loyalty. I think that he is a tremendous, tremendous talent. He has really ascended and has blossomed into his own over the last several years in particular. I'm all about player empowerment. I'm all about equitable compensation. And I'm all about NBA players and athletes in general making the most money that they possibly can. And I want that trend to continue. But do I truly think that Bradley Beal is one of those select guys that is truly worth a max deal for $248 million, essentially paying him $50 million per year? Do I think he's really that type of player? I'm not sure. And quite frankly, I don't know if he is. I think there are only a handful of NBA players that truly are worth a max of that magnitude. I'm talking about $50 million per year. Maybe there's only 10 guys like that. You have LeBron, you got KD, you got Steph, you got Giannis, you got Luka, Kawhi, Nikola Jokic, Embiid, and maybe Damian Lillard. That's 9 guys right there. I think that there are several guys that I would stomach paying that much money. I think guys like Jason Tatum, John Morant, I think that guys like Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, Trey Young, Zion Williamson, Bradley Beal, they fall under that next category of guys who would I stomach paying that type of money to? Probably. From a talent perspective, Kyrie, from a long term perspective, clearly not. That's what the Nets are showing us right now. So I think Bradley Beal can be lumped into that next category of guys who could I stomach paying that type of money to? Probably. But do I really think, without any hesitation, is worth that type of money? I'm not sure if he really is. And really, thanks to Ben Simmons and others and the amount of latitude that they have and they have operated with, we can really thank them, because I wouldn't be surprised if Bradley Beal signs a Supermax and then comes around and the next season demands a trade from the Wizards. Now, his personality doesn't seem to be tailored to do something like that. To his credit, Bradley Beal seems like a stand-up guy. He seems like someone that is true to his word. And again, it could be that the situation calls for, after a season, it's just not the right fit in Washington. And it wouldn't necessarily just be as simple as, okay, he wanted his money and then wanted to leave. He could have left several years ago. But I think that when you look at Bradley Beal and you look at his career, 10 years in the NBA, was the third overall pick in the 2012 NBA draft, was an all-NBA rookie team selection when he entered the league. He's been a three-time All-Star. One time he's been an all-NBA third-team selection in 10 seasons. So far, he's having a stellar career. But as far as the max, $248 million, is he the type of player that's capable of being a franchise player that can legitimately lead you to the postseason and to competing for a title year in and year out? I don't know if he's proven that he's capable of being that guy. The Wizards have never gone past the first round of the playoffs since 2017. In fact, only one time in his career has Bradley Beal advanced to the second round of the postseason. And not all of it's been his fault. He's tried to carry and lead the team as best as he could. And he's been a stable player in the NBA and is truly, I think, one of the best kind of complementary pieces. I think that if he were to be a number two on a team, you pair him with, again, a Luka or one of these upper echelon guys, well, I don't think it's a slight on him, and that makes that team very formidable. But if he is your number one player, which we have to treat the Supermax like that, we have to say if you're being signed to the Supermax, then you are one of those top 10 to 12 guys, 15 guys, perhaps most, that can nearly single-handedly lead a team to the postseason and to a championship. And I don't know if Bradley Beal is that guy. He's an excellent player. And obviously, if you're the Wizards, I think ultimately you should offer him the Supermax. I would recommend that they do that. Whether or not you have your hesitations and your reservations, which are totally valid, I would offer it to him. But it is a question. It is a question because they traded for Kristaps mid-season. They obviously just drafted Johnny Davis, number 10, out of my alma mater, the University of Wisconsin, to be in the backcourt with him. I think Johnny Davis is going to be a great NBA player. I love his makeup. I think that he'll fit well with Bradley Beal. Obviously, you've got some depth with Kuzma and KCP and Roy Hachimura. And you've got the Israeli guy, Danny Avdija. We'll see what he ends up turning into. They've got some pieces, but do I think it's really enough to compete legitimately in the Eastern Conference? Probably not. But again, if you're Bradley Beal, obviously you sign this. And I think that if you're the Wizards, you kind of just close your eyes, you make him this offer, and you hope that it pans out. But I do think that it warrants the question of should the Wizards offer him this type of max deal? And I think that's the question. That's the really interesting story to follow and to see what they ultimately do. By